Tuesday night was an event which I think many of us will never be able to recover from for reasons that are obvious. And I wanted to take this opportunity for you of the Lionel legal persuasion, those individuals who are more juridically inclined, so to speak, to listen very carefully and understand what's going on here. The connection, the obvious connection between the President of the United States and what goes on in the courts and the Constitution is manifest, obvious. We can talk about a variety of leitmotifs, if you will. There's Terry. Terry says, hey, Terry. I have been listening with rapt attention to the number of people trying desperately to explain what was the reason. What was the reason? How exactly did this thing work? What was the reason for this? And it's fascinating because this will prove to be an absolute monumental, colossal blowout, a landslide, not the greatest ever, but right up there. Number one was 1964. On November 22nd, 1963, as the nation was in shock over the death, Lyndon Johnson took the oath of office, and he said it was one of the most important events, obviously, that you can imagine. And then in 1964, in 1964, the country was strong. The conflict in Vietnam was still kind of in the back pages of the newspaper. And the only thing that could have defeated Johnson was a really compelling and vibrant Republican opponent, and it was Barry Goldwater. He said, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And he said, and what was it, compassion or failure to be tough is no virtue. In any event, Johnson crushed him. He got 486 electoral votes to Goldwater's 52. An electoral margin of victory of 80 points. 80 points. It was second in history was Lincoln against McClellan, 1864. Lincoln got 212 votes to McClellan's 12, and the margin of victory of 81 percentage points, which is pretty good. Reagan against Carter, 1980. Reagan ended up with 81.8 percentage points, 489 electoral votes to 49. Number 4 was Jefferson versus Pinckney. Thomas Jefferson. It was brutal. It was brutal, as you can imagine. The 1804 election was the first to be held after the ratification of the 12th Amendment, which changed the electoral process so that each elector cast 2 separate votes, one for president, the other for vice president. 84-point margin of victory. He got 162 electoral votes to Pinckney's 14. And number 5, Nixon against McGovern. Remember that one? 93 percentage points, 520 to 17. And number 6, Reagan against Mondale. That was a good one. And that was, let me see, 525 electoral votes to 13 with a 95% margin of victory. And then number 7, Franklin Roosevelt against Alf Landon. So historically, there have been more. But what happened here was a very, very simple thing. What happened here was very much the product of the fact that this woman was just a nincompoop, an absolute nincompoop. And that's it. And yet when you hear people talk about this and they discuss it and they review it, they spend so much time talking about chauvinism and racism and sex. It had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with that at all. The question I have for you fine people watching, my question to you is there any risk whatsoever of abortion ever going away? Let me ask you the question. What is the status of abortion in our country? Mark Henkel writes, never understood the Goldwater hype. What do you mean the hype? What do you mean by the hype? What is hype on whose part? He was, I think it was pretty mild kind of by today's standards. But what do you refer to when you say the hype? Hype then, hype now? Ooh, I'm curious, what does that mean, sir? I ask you. Anybody? Anybody want to go in there? Nixon seemed to have a mobbed up vibe. I didn't trust him, too shady looking. You're looking by the way he looks? Mobbed up? Nixon? The racket buster? What? You know, Whittaker Chambers and the whole racket. Do you know what you're talking about? Or I'm just curious. You don't have to. You can preface it by saying, I really don't know. You know, Alger Hiss mobbed up during the whole McClellan, the mobbed up. What is this? This is the most important thing. Lee Serbeck says electoral college votes should be assigned according to citizen population. Quit counting illegals. Well, it didn't seem to work last time. Let me ask you something, Lee. How are the electors assigned? By what? How are they assigned? Why? How are they assigned? It's not really this. Tell me. Lee, anytime. Mark says the whole affair, the Goldwater legend. I mean, again, what legend? What legend are you talking about? Good legend? Bad legend? What? Hillbilly says it's population, but it's also the amount of congressional seats, and then you have electors for you get the actual Congress people plus 2 for the Senate. It has nothing to do really with illegals. If for some reason population were to change, voter sizes and districts, that might be a different story. What if they were assigned by county? What does this mean? Mark, do you know what you're talking about? I love you, Mark, but this may not be for you. Just saying, my friend. Just saying. Just saying, buddy. This may not be for you. You know what I mean? Just saying. Now, let me ask the question of you, wonderful people. What is the status of abortion? Is abortion what? Is it legal? Is it not legal? Is it what? What was the effect of the Dobbs case? What was it? Anybody? Mark Hinkle says, any legend I should study up on. Indeed. He was at that time portrayed as this wild conservative during the time of the bomb. If anything else, ironically, Lyndon Johnson was probably more of a warmonger, whatever it is. Now let's talk about abortion. What is the status? What is it about? What is abortion? What is abortion? Fred says optional. It's optional? Abortion is optional. What does this mean? Again, one of the things which is so interesting is that when we write, and this is something which is interesting, it is important that you write more than a word if the one word doesn't necessarily convey enough of the idea. Just saying. Up to the state to regulate. Now, why is it up to the state? Weird says termination of a pregnancy. Well, my friend, no shite. That's exactly what we're talking about. I meant the state of it. Now, the question is determination of a pregnancy, any pregnancy. States determine how to regulate abortion. Yes. And the best part about that is all the Dobbs case said was there is no federal protection. It did not overrule Roe. Casey did that. It merely says if a state wants to prohibit abortion, let it prohibit it. If a state wants to guarantee it, let it guarantee it. If the federal government wants to guarantee it, they can pass a statute. There is no constitutional right to an abortion. Is there a constitutional right to sodomy, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody? Is there a constitutional right to sodomy? And sodomy, why not take sodomy is not necessarily what you think it is. You think of it as a particular type of act. It means a series of, quote, unnatural behaviors, whatever the hell that is. But is there a constitutional right? If tomorrow the state of Ohio banned certain forms of behavior between people of the same sex, is there a constitutional right for you to practice that particular behavior? Is there or isn't there? Look at this. Cessation of an embryonic function. You would never be good at writing a statute. My good friend, you would never do this. Rod Bender just gave us about 3 different loopholes. Also, if it's not an embryo, what if it's a fetus? What if it's beyond? What if it's beyond blastocyst? Terminations, cessation. Cessation how? By any means? No. We're not even going to get to that. The point that I'm trying to say is that there is no guarantee. There is no, if I were to suggest, let's say there was a law in the state of Tennessee that prohibited oral pleasure, whatever, that, and if somebody were to be brought up, is there a statute? Can you go and use the Constitution? Could you use a constitution to say, I have a right to do this? Could you honestly prosecute somebody for this particular type of intimacy? Could it? Yes, you could. Scotty Mack says, but is it a privacy issue? Scotty, what is a privacy issue? What does that mean? Is privacy guaranteed? Privacy was a term that was coined in the Griswold case in 1965 by William O. Douglas in the case where there was a statute that prohibited, of all things, contraception, even contraception between men and women. Makes sense. Between married couples. And he concocted this idea, this ridiculous notion of this thing called, of all things, privacy. And privacy was something he just made it up. He said that there are certain rights that emanate. And he talked about the penumbra, the rights that emanate from the first, third, fourth, fifth. Just made this up. I submit to you, my friends, there is no constitutional right to sodomy or any form, or to frottage or paraphilia or undonism or anything for that matter. There is no constitutional right. Doesn't mean you can't do it. How would anybody even find it? I don't know. But there is no constitutional right. You might be able to show later on that the Constitution has been violated if there's an equal protection problem, the way people are treated differently. This particular act is okay for Asians, but not for black people. Something like that. The point is, Donald Trump has never said anything about abortion. And if a state wants to do it, knock yourself out. Nobody's for abortion. Nobody is for abortion. And it's a stupid issue politically. Nobody cares about it because nobody cares. Nobody's going to vote for it. There is no chance of it being taken away. I would venture to say that nobody in this room has had an abortion. No, I say that that for the following reasons. There are many times when you can be places, and I promise you will be places where they never, ever, ever have, where nobody has an abortion. Nobody had an abortion. It's not this thing that you think people need or that they have all the time. It doesn't. And it's a dog of a political case. Nobody cares about this. Donald Trump never said, I'm going to take, never. He never said, I'm going to use the military against people I don't like or people never said. I don't know where that came from. Anybody knows what Project 2025 is? Anybody? Anybody knows what that is? I don't know what it is. They brought that up again. I have no idea. The good news is that the illegals that were brought here had apparently nothing to do with the ultimate race. Donald Trump clobbered her. Now, let me ask you something. In one word, why did he beat her? Why do you think so? Why do you believe that either she lost or he won? Let me ask you this question. Did she lose or did he win? Anybody? It's kind of an interesting question. I would venture to say most people voted for him because they liked what he had to say. You understand this? They like what he has to say. And they didn't like her. They weren't going to vote for her anyway. People were going to vote for Donald Trump. You can change her. They would still vote for Donald Trump. Nobody ever voted for Kamala Harris. Nobody ever did that. So that's an important thing to know. And it's very, very critical. And I'm telling you right now, and I want you to think about this very, 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 very carefully. What she did was she came along, she had absolutely no idea what was going on. I don't believe she meant it for a moment. I don't think she wanted to be president. I think her concession speech or her sayonara, her valedictory, it was one of her best speeches because she was relieved. She was done with that. She was absolutely done. Joe Biden yesterday seemed the happiest and most because he's done with it. He is so done with this. Prediction has it by many people that Joe Biden will pardon his son, Hunter. I mean, after all, it's his son. Who can blame him? I mean, come on. And rumor has it there's a very good chance he will pardon President Trump. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Biden, there's talk. Biden pardons Trump. What do you think about that? Good or bad? It's good for Trump, obviously. Why would he do that? Does that sound at all possible to you? That sound at all relatively possible? Anybody? Does that sound interesting? Anybody? Anybody at all? Anybody think that's... Come on, type it. Anybody? It's a good thing. Well, I know it's a good thing, but from a strategy point of view. Ford did pardon Nixon. That's correct. But it was a different story. And he did it because that was kind of looming and hanging around. What happens is, here's the story. Joe Biden despises the Republicans. The Democrats, Democratic Party. What they did to him, what they did to his wife, what they did to his legacy. All he has now is his legacy. He is going out and he is as a dotard, a wizened, decrepit, kind of a coot, hobbled by decrepitude and senescence. He's waddling up. That's not the way he wanted to do it. He was the absolute preferred. He was the preferred and selected and chosen Democratic nominee. And they just took him away and replaced him with her. And he was furious about that. He won in 2016. They told him no. He said, but I can beat Trump. No, you can't. It's Hillary's time. Hillary ran, she lost. He then runs in 2020. He beats Trump. And we can argue about that because now there's all kinds of new evidence that shows that the 2020 story may be different. All right, fine. So then he's going to run again. And granted, he doesn't have his fastball, and I think he's very seriously decrepit. But the point is, they never gave him a chance. They just took it away. They took it all away and dumped her in there. So what he does is basically F you to the Democrats. I'm going to pardon him. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. I'm going to pardon Trump for the good of the country, but mostly to tick you off. Then I'm going to go to Kathy Hochul, and I'm as governor of New York, and I'm going to say, you better pardon him, state pardon, to get rid of that Alvin Bragg conviction. I'm not sure about the other one. The civil case is a different story. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And this way, if you don't, Trump will burn you. You will never get anything out of Washington. Be on the lookout for this. I think it's one of the smartest things possible. One of the smartest things available. It's absolutely brilliant. Watch that. Next, you're going to be seeing massive, it's going to be challenged in the courts, massive deportations. Massive. During the Truman administration, there was something called Operation Wetback. Think about that. Talk about politically incorrect. This has been done before. There is precedence for that. This was an absolute hypocrisy. Next, he's going to be doing what I suggest he does is he does not have in any way any form of an inauguration. He should go just say, you know what? Screw you. You don't deserve it. I'm going to work. I've already taken the oath of office. The inauguration is not required by the Constitution. As long as I take an oath of office, that's it. I'm fine. There's nothing here. You people are miserable. I hate all of you. I hate Washington. I hate all this stuff. Sorry, not interested. We're going to go right. It would send the best message ever. Biden will pardon him. Biden's legacy. They will hate his name. They will revile him. You did what? You pardoned him? I pardoned him. Yep. His paybacks are a bitch. And he feels abandoned. So long to all this silly drag queen, transgender nonsense. It's done. America, in fact, make America America again. I think James Woods, the actor, said this. It's the best one I've heard. Make America America. Not really great, but just America. Let us be who we are again. This is going to be one of the most important, critical events ever. Ever. Can't Trump pardon himself? The Office of Legal Counsel says no. It's kind of up in the air. I don't know why he couldn't, but you don't want to do that. I don't know. But Trump withstood everything. He's the most incredible person. So anyway, my friends, it's going to be incredible. Remember this. It's going to be critical. Research. Every time you have something, if you say, what is the story regarding, whatever, look it up. Mr. Hinkle says, Lionel, always great stuff you put out. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Always look this up. I was looking up today, landslides. Why is it? I believe that we are still have the electoral count. Trump, they're still not. It's still 295 to 226. Nevada, which is ridiculous. Nevada, we don't know about, and Arizona. Arizona is leaning towards Trump's about almost 6 points. About 6 points ahead, but they haven't called that yet. It's a key race. And Nevada is different too, because in Nevada they have that's also leaning Pardon me. That's also leaning Trump. So, yes, hang on a minute. That's also Trump. And that is, let me see. I don't know how many. He's looking at about a potential of 312. Of 312. 312. Think about this. He's looking at 312. It's the most incredible thing in the world. What this man did, he obliterated her. Absolutely obliterated her. You see what I'm saying? It's like nothing anybody's ever seen. He obliterated her. And it was so delicious. She never wanted it. She never cared about it. It was not something she was interested in the least. It meant nothing to her. Nothing. So we'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Please always make sure you are subscribed to Lionel Legal, Lionel Legal, Lionel Legal. Mark Hinkle, thank you. Lionel Legal. Make sure that right now you are subscribed here to Lionel Legal. At 7 p.m., I invite you to join us at Lionel Nation for my evening soiree where we talk about all matters under the sun. My friends, have a great and a glorious day. Thank you so much for watching. And until we meet again, my friends, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya.